Welcome to our animated philosophy series, where we explore timeless concepts in a modern context. Today we're diving into one of the most influential ideas in Western philosophy, René Descartes' mind-body dualism. This theory is not just a relic of philosophical history, but has shaped how we think about ourselves, consciousness, and the very nature of reality. You might be surprised to learn that even modern debates in cognitive science owe a great deal to this centuries-old idea. So let's unpack it step by step. René Descartes, often called the father of modern philosophy, lived in the 17th century, a time of great intellectual upheaval. He's famous for that phrase, cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. But this catchy statement is just the beginning. Descartes was also trying to figure out the fundamental nature of existence itself. And he did this by proposing that there are two distinct kinds of substances that make up reality, the mind and the body. On one side, we have what Descartes called res cogitans, or the thinking substance. This is the mind. It's immaterial, meaning it doesn't take up space, and its essence is thought. Your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, everything that happens in your consciousness belongs to this realm. On the other side, we have res extensa, the extended substance. This is the body, along with everything else in the physical world. It's material, meaning it has size, shape, and location in space, and it operates according to the laws of physics. So far, this division seems pretty straightforward, right? But here's where things get complicated. Descartes believed that these two substances, the mind and the body, are entirely separate from each other. They are fundamentally different in nature. The mind can think, but it can't be touched or measured. The body can move, but it can't think. Despite this, Descartes argued that these two substances somehow interact with each other. This raises the question, how does an immaterial mind influence a material body? Descartes struggled with this too. He speculated that the connection between mind and body happened in a tiny part of the brain called the pineal gland. This idea might seem strange to us now, but remember, this was in the early days of neuroscience. What mattered most to Descartes was finding some way to explain how thoughts, beliefs, and desires, immaterial things, could cause physical actions, like moving your hand or speaking a word. Now, what do you think were the implications of Descartes' dualism? Well, first, it raised fundamental questions about what makes you you. Is it your mind, your consciousness, or is it your physical body? Dualism tends to emphasize that your true identity lies in your mind, as that's the part of you that thinks, feels, and perceives the world. But the theory wasn't without its critics. Many later philosophers found this dualistic approach problematic. For instance, Baruch Spinoza, whom you might remember from another video, challenged Descartes by arguing that there weren't two substances, but only one. Spinoza claimed that God, or nature, was the single substance underlying both mind and body. This idea is known as substance monism, and it stands in direct contrast to Descartes' dualism. Leibniz, another philosopher, took issue with the way Descartes thought the mind and body interacted. He couldn't accept the idea of two substances interacting without some explanation of how it happened. He proposed an alternative theory known as pre-established harmony, where mind and body don't actually influence each other at all. Instead, God set up both realms to run in perfect synchronization, like two clocks ticking at the same time, but independently. Let's bring this down to earth for a moment. You've all experienced mind-body interaction firsthand. Think about when you're stressed, your heart races, your muscles tense, maybe you even get a headache. Or when you're excited, you might feel a rush of energy. These are clear examples of how your mind and body seem to influence each other. But the mystery remains, how exactly does this happen? Is there a direct cause and effect relationship? Or is there something deeper going on? These are questions that still challenge philosophers and scientists today. Here's an interesting story about Descartes. When he first developed his theory, he was actually in hiding. Europe at the time was a place where new ideas could be dangerous, and Descartes' work was considered radical. He spent much of his life moving from one safe haven to another to avoid persecution. It was during these periods of isolation that he developed his philosophy. And while his dualism became one of his most famous ideas, it was also one of the most controversial. His contemporaries were fascinated by his ideas, but many couldn't accept the sharp division he drew between mind and body. Now, let's fast forward to the present. Descartes' mind-body dualism is still very much alive in contemporary discussions, particularly in the philosophy of mind and cognitive science. For example, the mind-body problem, how mental states like beliefs and desires relate to physical states like brain activity, is still one of the biggest puzzles in neuroscience and psychology. Today, some philosophers and scientists lean towards physicalism, the view that everything about the mind can ultimately be explained by physical processes in the brain. Others defend a version of dualism, suggesting that there's something irreducible about consciousness that can't be fully explained by physical science alone. So, While Descartes' dualism has faced many challenges and criticisms over the centuries, it's also been incredibly influential. It opened up new ways of thinking about consciousness, identity, and the mind's relationship to the body. And even though our understanding of the brain has advanced dramatically since Descartes' time, we're still grappling with the same fundamental questions he raised. And with that, I hope you leave today with a deeper understanding of why Descartes' dualism remains such an essential part of philosophy, and how it continues to shape debates in the philosophy of mind and cognitive science. The mind and body may be separate, but in many ways they're forever entwined in our quest to understand what it means to be human. Thank you for learning with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insights into similar echoes.